Wooburg versus Wooburg. Sliver Overlord versus Scion of the Dragon. And we have, an okay hand. We'll keep that. Just have to hope that our opponent doesn't get off to a really fast start. That's typically what we tend to want to play around in 1 versus 1 commander. We just have to really hope that our opponent doesn't go into, a Sol Ring and then a Signet and then a whatever else. We can grab, I like black and green here, because we're going to want to get into Kodama's reach, get our way up to 5 colours. So it is a white for Sentinel Sliver. This will give slivers we control Vigilance. That is a 2/2 for 2. Gives our slivers Vigilance. Sliver Overlord is Wooburg for a 7/7. 3 generic mana allows us to tutor for a sliver. And then 3 generic mana again allows us to gain control of a sliver. Scion of the Dragon is a Wooburg 4/4 flying dragon. And for 2 generic mana, search your library for a dragon permanent, put it into your graveyard, and Scion of the Dragon becomes a copy of it until the end of the turn. I think Kodama's reach is okay here, because that means that we'll be able to get ourselves into Sliver Overlord next turn. So we've got 2 black, 2 blue, a white and a green. I think, we only have 1 plains in the deck apparently, so we'll go for a forest and a mountain. Mountain can come in tapped. We'll throw it back over to our opponent after swinging in. Might as well get 2 damage in. Good thing about Sliver Overlord and creatures or commander creatures that have 7 power in general is that you only need to hit your opponent 3 times with those in order to get commander damage off, which we can do quite consistently. Now then, if we go black, green, blue, white, red, that's okay, isn't it? Yeah, we'll go for that. See if our opponent has any removal for us. I don't think they'll have counter magic, but you never know. And then we'll go in with the Sentinel Sliver, and we need to decide what we want to tutor for with the Sliver Overlord next turn. Okay, they have a Cyclonic Rift to bounce this Sliver Overlord. And a Chrome Mox comes down for our opponent, so they are just attempting to get themselves to Wooburg. They might make a land drop and get to their 5 colours this turn. 4 cards in hand. Yep, there we are. We do have Winged Sliver so that we can block with Sliver Overlord. And if our opponent manages to do something to our Sentinel Sliver, then we can go for Toxic Deluge. We'll make the land drop anyway. This makes creature spells of the chosen type cost 1 less to cast. I don't really want to put out 1/1s against our opponent, because they could go for, is it Thundermaw Hellkite? The 5 mana dragon that pings all the flyers for 1. Let's just get down the Sliver Overlord again. We're not paying command attacks on it, so we don't really need to worry on that front. And we'll just have to see what our opponent is going to turn the Scion of the Dragon into. Swinging in, and must be turning the Scion into something in response to blocks. Okay, they're doing something twice, so it's on the stack. They're turning it... Oh, I see. So I bet they're going to turn it into an Infect Dragon. Skittles. Yeah, because this has Phyrexian mana fire breathing, so they can pay a lot of life to buff its attack to 10, and then they'll turn it into Skittles, I imagine. Yep, certainly are. So this is an Infect Dragon. Skithrix, the Blight Dragon, otherwise known as Skittles to some people. And that has Infect, and got us down to 10 Infect on turn 5. So a pretty good showing for Scion of the Dragon. I'll play another Sliver Overlord game, and we'll see if we can do a little better next time. Alright, let's see how we fare this time. Up against an even scarier commander, Kaalia of the Vast. I'm still with the Sliver Overlord. We'll keep this. I think we have Wooburg in hand there, actually. What have we got? That is 4 colours right there, and then white, yep. So we can dump our hand onto the board as soon as possible. Probably fit in an Anguished Unmaking on turn 3 to get rid of Kaalia. And then we'll Wheel of Fortune at some point through all of that. Sliver Overlord, Wooburg, 7/7. You can search for a Sliver for 3 and gain control of a Sliver for 3 as well. We get into the Moboid Changeling. Let's just go for a white mana with the Marsh Flats. Don't know if we have a white tap land. Don't have too many tap lands in this deck. So we'll just go for the Plateau, I think. Kaalia of the Vast is a 4 mana Mardu commander, 2/2 with flying. When it attacks an opponent, you may put an angel, demon, or dragon onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. Let's go for Tiger into the Signet and throw it straight back over to our opponent. Have to get a Bayou out next turn in order to have the Anguished Unmaking ready and waiting for Kaalia. Luckily, haven't gotten into any mana rocks yet. Okay, if our opponent just so happens to miss the Kaalia next turn, then we can hold up Fact or Fiction, so quite liking what we're drawing into so far. And there's our Kaalia. Definitely want to get rid of that as soon as we can. Not worthy that our opponent has played an Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, so we're not going to be struggling for black mana this game. We only have 1 black land in play, so that is worth noting. Now then, do we want to get down? I think I prefer Sliver Hivelord, just in case our opponent has a board wipe. Sliver Hivelord is a Wooburg 5/5 and it gives our Slivers indestructible. Now, there's every chance our opponent will have some exile effects. But if they don't, then their board wipes are going to be useless. They could have a Toxic Deluge or a Merciless Eviction, something like that. There's plenty of ways around it. But if we can get Shroud onto our creatures, it'll take a couple of turns to set up Shroud, but we can go for Sliver Overlord and then get the 2 mana Azorius Sliver that gives us Shroud. Forget the name of that one. Crystalline Sliver, I think. Okay, and there's the O-Ring. Well, they're not using it on our commander at least. We'll go in for the Forest. Might as well get the Sol Ring down. And then we'll go for our Sliver Overlord and see if our opponent has anything for us. And we can also get down the Amoboid Changeling. This thing goes well with our Sliver Overlord's second ability. Target creature gains all creature types until the end of the turn. And then for 3 mana, gain control of a Sliver. So this thing can tap and make one of our opponent's creatures a Sliver. And then we can steal it for 3 mana with the Sliver Overlord. That's the reason it's in here. And they can afford to get down Kaalia now, but if they do, we're definitely going to steal it. Looks like they are going for Kaalia. Diffusion Sliver I definitely want to get down. Because that will... Well, actually, do we just want to do the Shroud thing? Target creature gains all creature types till the end of the turn. That's Kaalia. Then gain control of a target Sliver. That is 3 mana into that. We gain control of Kaalia. And for 1, 2, and 3... Yeah, we can get down the Crystalline Sliver with that. So let's go tap like this, because we need Azorius mana. That is white and blue. Search your library for a Sliver card. And Crystalline Sliver right there. Our opponent can still board wipe, but they're going to make their Kaalia really expensive. That's going to be 8 mana for Kaalia, if they want to get it out again. 2 more hits from the Sliver Overlord, and we'll be able to get our opponent on commander damage. They might be able to start hard casting dragons or angels or demons. The Homeward Path. Yeah, I didn't see that. Luckily for us, did they just play that this turn, or did they always have that? Anyway, they tapped it out anyway, even if they did have control of it. Kaalia hasn't been under our opponent's control since the beginning of the turn, so it does have summoning sickness. They might have a means of giving it haste, though. That's further mana. A 3 mana enchantment. It doesn't look like that's what they're going for, though. Okay, just hard casting a Ryusei. The Falling Star, that is a 5/5 dragon. And it deals 5 damage to each creature without flying when it dies. So, it might be an idea to give our Slivers flying in that case. Or we could just take control of that thing. Yeah, what to do here? I think we have to try and get through. I'm not sure what to do here. Maybe we just swing in and see if our opponent wants to have that Ryusei. No, actually I'm just going to gain control of the Ryusei. Oh, that's an interaction I didn't think about. We've given... The Crystalline Sliver gives all Slivers Shroud. So the Ryusei is now all types and it gives itself Shroud. Yeah, I never thought of that. Well, we are going to be losing a couple of our Slivers then in that case. That's annoying. But you live and you learn. Yeah, in that case, why don't we just go and get out our Sliver Overlord again after that terrible play of mine. And luckily our opponent's down to 3 cards, but we don't know if they have some really good cards in hand. I don't really want to use the Wheel of Fortune and give them a bunch of good stuff to swing in with Kaalia. Okay, they are going into the red zone, so we'll see if they've got anything for us. Okay, Lord of the Void comes in. That is, whenever it deals combat damage to a player, exile the top 7 cards of their library and put a creature card from amongst them onto the battlefield under your control. So we're going to have to be careful of the Slivers that give a world ability, because that will give our opponent's Slivers the ability as well. Oh, and that's exactly... I was actually thinking of tutoring for this next turn to get the O-ring off the field. Yeah, they're getting rid of our Sol Ring. I wish we had a Homeward Path of our own. We don't have one in this deck. Don't have very many colourless lands at all, because this being a 5 mana or a 5 colour deck. I'm just looking over at the deck list now, actually. I don't have... Wasteland is usually one of the first lands I put in, and we don't have that. Yeah, I'll definitely have to add that to the deck. And holding up the Homeward Path, that thing's really hurting us this game. I don't really need to go for blue mana, thanks to the Signets. Now this thing is choose a creature at random from your opponent's graveyard, put it onto the battlefield. They could get Crystalline Sliver or the Amoeboid Changeling. Yeah, not really worried about either of those. I think making our Sliver Overlord unblockable is the best bet. If we manage to keep the Shifting Sliver in play, then we'll be able to swing in next turn for lethal at our opponent, assuming they don't get lethal on us at the same time. That's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. They might be able to do it next turn if they have a creature to get down with Kaalia. Oh, and we have a means of getting rid of Oblivion Ring because the Harmonic Sliver is a world ability. So that will trigger our Sliver entering. So we can at least protect ourselves from a board wipe. Get rid of our opponent's Soul Ring because the Sliver Hive Lord re-enters. And now we have some indestructible, unblockable slivers. So we just have to hope that our opponent doesn't beat us next turn, which they may well do. Oh, it's not unblocked. I'm making mistakes left, right and centre here. I mean, we can go for double strike anyway. Lord of the Void is making things difficult for us because they're likely going to be able to get slivers from us. Yeah, they got Gale Rider Sliver. Yeah, my thought is if they can't get a Sliver from us, which with the top 7 cards of our library they probably can, we can get the double striking Sliver and try and get commander damage on our opponent. I always think of this thing as unblockable because it usually is. Slivers can only be blocked by slivers, is what it actually says. So that's my mistake. Now, they have 2 cards in hand. They might just be able to get lethal on us right now. Okay, well that's one sliver that they've got out of our graveyard. So that's one sliver that can block, and then I dare say Lord of the Void is going to get them another sliver. And then Kaalia triggers. They might be able to get down another creature here. Oh, well, there we go. I don't think they'll get the additional attack phase with this. But that's 12 damage to us. And then Lord of the Void triggers, and I dare say they're going to get a sliver here. Now, Homeward Path. Each player gains control of all creatures they own. I wonder if that's worth going for, because that will give us our own slivers back. The problem is, we'll take control of some tapped creatures if we decide to do that. Okay, I think the thing to do here is put 6 mana into Sliver Overlord and take control of these slivers that our opponent is stealing from us. Hammer of Perforos gives creatures haste. Bit too late for that, unfortunately, for our opponent. Now, they have black mana held up. I don't know of any spells in black for 3 that exile. There are some minus effects, though. Yeah, I think it's just a case of putting 3 mana into Sliver Overlord twice. Gain control of a sliver, we'll take that one. And then we'll take that one. We're actually quite missing our Soul Ring now. Okay, well we at least force them to tap it. Target creature loses all creature types until the end of the turn. So that's fine. That means we can't gain control of it because it's not a sliver anymore. Now we've got 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Yeah, we don't quite have enough, do we? Yeah, we're going to be a couple away from getting our opponent here. Yeah, in hindsight, a better thing to do there actually would have been to take the Thorncaster Sliver and then put 3 mana into a tutor. And I think there's a 2 mana... Still learning this deck. I've never played slivers before I built this deck. Putting 2 mana into a sliver that gives us haste. Yes, there is. There's Heart Sliver. Heart Sliver gives all slivers haste. And that is a 1-1. So we could have swung in with this and the 1-1. That would have been an extra 3 points of damage, and it would have been a couple of extra pings on our opponent. So we could have had them there. That's just, I've been making mistakes all over this game, apparently. So we'll just let our opponent swing in for the fun of it. But it was good to see a good game from Kaalia. Typically in Kaalia 1 versus 1, I just tend to keep Kaalia off the board, and therefore she doesn't really do anything. If you can beat her up before Kaalia actually gets to swing in and cheat in some creatures, then she doesn't really do anything. But yeah, apologies for the poor gameplay there. I am going to record another one and upload that, and the game screen has just disappeared instantly. But it's a good game to our opponent. I'll see you all in the next one. Okay, third game in the session, and I'm really not happy with the way I played in the last game, so I'm going to put 2 games together into one video, I think, and then release this one, and hopefully it will be a better showing. We're not going to get far with that hand because we don't have any lands. Okay, Training Grounds, and then Sentinel Sliver. I think we can keep that. We're up against Krenko Mob Boss this time. 4 mana, mono red for a 3/3. Tap and create X 1/1 goblins, where X is the number of goblins you control. Cavern of Souls is... No, I think we've got time to draw into another land. Not really worried about our opponent countering our stuff in mono red. And then we'll go over the commander quickly. That's a 7/7 Wooburg commander. 3 gains control of a sliver, and then 3 to search your library for a sliver, reveal it and put it into your hand. We're going for the Training Grounds. We've got Badlands there, so that's already a better lands for us than Cavern of Souls. As Badlands is mana that can be put into something other than creatures. Training Grounds is good because it knocks Sliver Overlord's abilities down to 1 apiece. I'm not too sure that our opponent's going to get rid of a Training Grounds this game. Just have to hope that we don't get overwhelmed by Krenko. Goblins are really, really fast usually. But luckily, haven't seen a turn 1 goblin. And I'd be shocked if we didn't see something on turn 2. Wow, nothing on turn 2 either. I don't think there's any instant speed goblin producers for 2 mana. Let's go for the Scrubland into Sentinel Sliver. And then as it stands now, we just get something with Arid Mesa next turn and hold up the Swords to Plowshares. Slowly but surely making our way towards Wooburg for Sliver Overlord. And I don't think our opponent will be able to deal with Sliver Overlord too easily because red removal tends to be burn based. Okay, and they're missing a land drop by the looks of it as well, and I assume they just drew into that. You can sacrifice it to deal 2 damage to a creature with flying, and that creature loses flying until the end of the turn. Yeah, we'll just go for Arid Mesa and hold up the Swords to Plowshares. I'm not going to swing in at the Goblin Skycutter. Okay, we'll crack the Arid Mesa. Our opponent is still missing land drops. This is... I mean, they might have just a load of Lords in hand. We have white, black... Yeah, we'll go for Stomping Ground intact in that case. Okay, Might Sliver. Yeah, there's nothing to do on turn 4 either. Let's just get down the Sliver Hive and pass it over again. Not having the best of luck ourselves, but at least we're making land drops. We're making our way to something, unlike our opponent. The difference is, if our opponent makes 1 land drop, it might make all the difference for them. Because I don't think we're going to block with anything that they swing in with. Okay, they make their 3rd land drop. I'll be intrigued to see. Surely they'll play something now. Okay, there's Fervor. That gives everything haste. That is actually relevant. It's more difficult to remove than a haste enabler with goblins as well. There's a lot of goblin lords that enable haste. Or there's at least a couple I can think of anyway. Fervor's more difficult to remove because it's an enchantment. Okay, Boneside Sliver is... Yeah, that's good for next turn. So let's go Badlands now. And then that'll be 4 mana next turn for Boneside Sliver. Then we'll have 4 mana if we play Gaia's Cradle. yeah, we'll just see what happens. We're not going to swing in still to the Goblin Sky Cutter. Rather not lose vigilance on our Sliver Overlord. But I think we will be swinging in with a double striker next turn. They can chump with the Goblin Sky Cutter if they want to. I have been hammered by Krenko once or twice before. Tends to underperform more than it performs, but our opponent might just be being unlucky here. They've gotten down a Dormant Volcano. Alright, let's go Boneside Sliver. We could get rid of that Goblin Sky Cutter actually to make Sliver Overlord more of a threat. But we'll see if our opponent... I mean, they can get down the Krenko anyway next turn and tap it in response to a Swords to Plowshares. So I think it's actually worth... Get down Gaia's Cradle. Yeah, at the end of our opponent's turn we can search for an evasive Sliver and get through the last points of commander damage. So let's get rid of this thing. And it's worth getting rid of that because if the evasive creature we decide to go for is a flyer, then that thing could peck the flyer out of the air anyway. But they're up to 14 points of commander damage, so if we get to hit them once more, and they're done for, they might just go for Krenko here in order to get some chump blockers into play. Yep, there it is. And our opponent only had one Goblin in play, in Krenko. So it's been a pretty unlucky round for our opponent. They've probably kept a pretty expensive hand and only had a couple of lands in hand, so not the best showing from Krenko, unfortunately. Oh, and I forgot, the Training Grounds makes it only cost one, so we can actually go for a few slivers here. There's one. So this is great card advantage for us. We're getting to see... I always forget the Training Grounds in this deck. I've done that a couple of times. Get Gale Rider Sliver. Just playing around our opponent having a Lightning Bolt. Let's get Crystalline Sliver as well. Do we have enough? Yeah, we have enough blue mana for that. So there's Crystalline Sliver. And there we go. We'll get down the island. We'll go white and blue into Crystalline Sliver. And there we go. We don't have to worry about Lightning Bolt now. So let's just go Gale Rider. That gives everything flying. And we just attack with that, that's fine. And that's commander damage on our opponent. They can't block it because our slivers have flying. And that's a good game to our opponent. Unfortunate that our Krenko opponent didn't really get going. It does show you the line of plays that you want to do with Sliver Overlord, but we didn't really get much of a game from our opponent because they were unlucky with their draws. But I'll upload this anyway because I had such a terrible game with Sliver Overlord last game. And I want to show you at least a semi-capable gameplay video. I can't just sit around playing the same deck for any length of time, to be honest, because I have other games to record. So we'll leave it at that, and any of you Sliver Overlord fans, I'll be sure to play another game next time. You just get 3 games for the price of 1. They're not the best games, but I suppose it's quantity over quality this time around. I'll be sure to play games again and hopefully get a better game out of it next time. Hopefully you all enjoyed it somewhat. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.